Alright guys, welcome back to Days of Darkness and welcome to my review of Psycho. This one came out in 1960. It is starring Anthony Perkins, Janet Leigh, and Vera Miles, and was directed by Alfred Hitchcock. Man, so this is a movie I've seen, God only knows the amount of times I've seen this fucking movie. And you know, every time I go in, I always think about the same thing. You know, people, anytime I bring this film up, not anytime, but I've often heard people say like, oh, isn't that movie super old? And, oh, it's going to be boring and all this shit. And every time I get done watching this movie and I'm like, I don't understand how a horror fan can't fucking love this. Does it have to be in your top 10 or top 20? No, it doesn't. It's not in mine. But, I mean, God, this movie just fucking rules, dude. It's such an influential film. You know, sometimes you can hear people talk up a film a lot. Like a lot. I know it's happened to me. And then you go in, and then you're just kind of like, okay, like, whatever. It's happened to me plenty of times. Believe you me, if you go into this blind and you're not, I mean, everyone pretty much knows Psycho by this point, but if you do go into this film having never seen it and you're not really sure what to expect, in case my opinion is an opinion you value, I highly fucking recommend this, dude. This movie is absolutely fucking beautiful. Like I said, one of the more influential films in horror history, not just for the twists and all of that, but just for the sheer amount of suspense in this movie. It just fucking rules, man. Yeah, I'm gonna quit rambling so we can get into this. So I wanted to start out by, you know, obviously we'll talk about Norman Bates and all that jazz, but I wanted to start off this review talking about Marion Crane. Now, everybody knows the twist with Marion Crane is she's 100% expected to be the final girl of the movie. If you go into it blind, and then boom, she's killed off about halfway through. And this movie really kind of innovated that in a lot of ways. I may be talking out of my ass. I'm sure someone's going to be like, well, actually, in 1959, a movie from fucking blah, blah, blah. Fine. But to me, this is like the first instance of really subverting expectation. And I feel like when people talk about her character, they really only bring up that and then the shower scene, which obviously we will talk about. But I was like, on this go around, I mean, I've always kind of known this, but on this go around, I was like, man, this is a fucking really compelling character. Obviously, Norman Bates is the star of the show here, but, you know, Janet Leigh's performance here as Marion is really fucking good, man. Really, really fucking good. I like the fact that we have a very flawed character here. You know, she's not a bad person or anything. She's just caught up. You know, she's having an affair with a man that you can tell they really do care about one another and really do love one another. But they're caught up. Now, I was kind of confused by a couple things. I'm guessing he's the one who's getting... Because he refers to his ex-wife. And I don't think Marion has any real commitment to anybody that we can at least see in the movie. So I'm not really sure why there's a need for an affair if he's already split from his wife, but whatever. I may have missed something in the numerous times I've fucking watched this thing, but as far as I'm concerned, why would you even need to have an affair? But anyways, she's still caught up in this very scandalous situation, and maybe just the whole taboo of whether he's separated or not, if you're having sex with a married man, you know, it's not good. So she's caught up in this deal, but you can tell they really do care about each other, and they're talking about getting married and all this stuff. And you know, when she has the opportunity and she gets that money from, you know, 'cause she works at the bank and she's trusted with this money, it's about $40,000. She just fucking splits, man. Which $40,000 back then, that's I mean, even now that's a fucking good amount of money, but back then, even more so. So yeah, man, she's like, hey, I get to steal this money from this boss who does. I mean, it seems like the boss treats her okay, but that dude he was helping out, you know, the person who the money belongs to, it's pretty fucking sleazy, man. He's flirting with Marion and fucking, you know, just kind of being a sleazeball. So she's like, hey, fuck this guy. You know, I'm gonna take this money, run off with my honey, and that'll be that. You know. Not the most honorable thing, but it's still relatable, you know? Not saying we've all stolen $40,000 or anything, but you get what I'm saying. So, while she's on the run, before she gets to the Bates Motel, she has a lot of really, really good moments here as far as her performance is concerned. Some very suspenseful stuff, obviously, when she pulls over, takes a nap, then boom, the cop wakes her up, which is never a way you want to be awoken at all. And she's kind of fucking freaking out. And I like the fact that the way Janet Leigh played this was, and the way she was directed as well, from, you know, Alfred Hitchcock, was, it's very deliberate that this is not someone who's used to doing things like this. She's never been on the run before. She's never had to lie to police officers and buy a cover vehicle and shit. Like, she's just not used to this sort of thing. So she's not good at covering her tracks at all. And obviously everybody around her who she interacts with, mostly the police officer and then later the used car salesman, they're both very suspicious of her because she's just not very good. You know, I mean, shit, when she buys the car, she almost leaves without her fucking luggage. It's like she's just not doing a very good job. Which you would think, you know? I mean, hell, when she gets to the dealership, you know, and she's like, oh, I'll take this one. And like, here, I got the money. And he goes, you don't want to, like, test it out? Take it around the block or something? Or, like, you're just gonna go? Like, yeah, he's very, and I like that guy, too, because he's like, it's too good of a day to argue, so I'll just play along. But you're fucking weird, man. Good shit there. And then yeah, like I mentioned, she almost leaves without her luggage. It's like she is ready to fucking go, and she does. She takes off, and then we get the storm scene. I also enjoy how in those scenes where she's driving, and how a lot of movies will just kind of have dead air. Not a lot, but some movies would just have dead air and just suspenseful music playing. But the decision is made here to have different... Now, the way I read it was it's like she's playing out different scenarios in her head and she hears people speaking. Not in a way that makes her, like, crazy or anything, but she's just going over the different scenarios. And more often than not, the worst-case scenario. As someone who struggles with anxiety and OCD and shit like that, like, I totally relate to that. It's like, what's the worst possible way this could go down? Like, that's just, she just is constantly thinking about that as she's driving. Now, I did enjoy, you know, the whole storm before she gets to the Bates Motel, and it's just pouring down rain to the point where she really has no other choice. And then when what ends up being the place where she goes to die, it almost seems like a safe haven. It's like, oh my God, it's such a relief to be, you know, to get somewhere with a fucking bed. And, you know, she pulls up, she checks in, and then we are introduced to Norman Bates. Horror fucking icon. There is no question about it. You can debate me all you want. This dude is a fucking legend of horror. Anthony Perkins' performance here is second to none. Like, just... What I love so much about this character, well, number one, you have your Jasons, your Michaels, your Freddys, all that stuff. Plenty of slashers who have several movies under their belt to the point where they're just a horror icon. It took just one for Norman Bates. Obviously, I know there are sequels to this movie that came out in the 80s. And honestly, those are pretty fucking good movies. But this was the one that really cemented Norman Bates. And what I love about this character is it is such a simple character. It is such a no-brainer of a character, but it's a character that is very, very hard to perform. It is a very hard performance to nail. And there is a subtle, like, on the surface, obviously Norman is very sweet, very kind, very hospitable, but there is this deep-seated anger about him, and you can see, like, up until the dinner scene where he has sandwiches and milk, which is just the way he says that already kind of uneases me. I don't know why, but but he that scene where they're having dinner together, Marion and Norman, you know, you just start to see this very subtle anger that's bubbling up inside of him, but he's so conditioned to keeping it all bottled up. But you can see he's starting to crack in certain places. And when Marion eventually suggests, you know, maybe it's time to put his mom in a better place in like a home, or, you know, she doesn't even say institution, but he immediately like jumps to that. He goes, "What, are you suggesting, an institution?" And as soon as he does jump to it, he immediately like a switch flips. And I think that's when he really, you know, the mother side of him, really, I think that's when he kind of realized, oh yeah, this chick's gonna die. Like, as soon as she even suggested, you know, getting rid of that side of himself, that's, I think her fate was sealed in that very moment as soon as she said that. You know, and it's, again, he gets just a little more mean and just progresses a little more, and then he calms back down. You know, and then he kind of levels himself out. But that whole dinner scene between those two, to me, was just fucking awesome. Just absolutely awesome. It's the first time you really get the sense of, oh, there's something not fucking right with this guy. And then eventually she takes off to her room, and Norm very, very heavily suggests that she should get the room right next to the office. That way, if she needs anything, she can just pop right over. That's what he says. But then we get the scene of him, you know, taking off the, you know, she's getting ready to hop in the shower, and he takes off the painting on the office wall, and he peeps through at her, and he sees her in her bra, and she's about to like take her skirt off, and you notice that like there's some restraint there still. He's like, all right, I don't want to step over the line too much. He's still a fucking weirdo. He's still a complete fucking weirdo. But he's like, no, that's, you know, I can't see her totally naked right now. That's just too much. I don't want to overstep my bounds. That's how I read it, at least. So it's like he's trying so hard to cling to some sense of normalcy, but he's still just a fucking weirdo. But yeah, and then comes the time for, you know, he eventually leaves, and then we get his mother, coming into her room, and we get one of the most iconic scenes in all of horror history. I mean, this is a scene that has been parodied up and down, left and right, and rightfully so. You know, it's one of the most iconic scenes in all of horror, like I just said. And you know, he goes in there, and I love, you know, she turns on this shower, and a detail that a lot of people overlook is like she's so relieved because I think it's been a couple days since she's had a shower, so she just turns on that hot steamy water. And for anyone who, you know, for whatever reason has gone a day without a shower, or maybe you're just really, it's just something that relaxes you, that relief. I know for me, showers are super fucking relaxing. So when you turn on that water and you feel that water hit you, you just see this sense of relief come over her. And she's just like, oh. You know, and I get it. It feels fucking great. Especially after the shit storm she's been through. And yeah, man, she's just taking a shower, and then you see that door open behind her. And the fact that it's, you know, behind the curtain it's the whole thing's just beautifully shot. You see that, and then you see this figure slowly approach the curtain, and it goes back to, I studied film in college. You know, I'm just such an astute film student, and I saw an interview with Alfred Hitchcock talking about suspense and how if two guys are sitting at a table and then the table explodes, then what the fuck? It's just this what we would today refer to as a jump scare. There's no substance in that. But if you see the clock ticking underneath the table and you know that eventually that bomb is going to go off, but the people sitting at the table have no clue, that's suspense. And that is a perfect analogy for that shot of Norm just slowly approaching the curtain. And then eventually he does rip open the curtain. We get the stabbing commences, and for the time, man, pretty gratuitous stuff. I mean, obviously, there's no full-on nudity or anything like that. It's not a blood and gore fest by any means. But you get a lot of exposure, even for now, and for the time, it is very, very graphic. Very fucking graphic, and it's, for the time, one of the scariest and most shocking scenes of horror people were not comfortable with nudity back then at all. So to see something like that play out on a big movie screen was, I imagine, pretty fucking shocking. And yeah, it's one of the best scenes in all of horror. I know people will say, "Oh, it's overrated." Whatever, dude. It's fucking awesome. So then Marion does die, and even afterwards of Norm kind of coming back into his own and going, "Oh, mother, the blood, no, mom," all that shit. I've just probably butchered that line, but anyways. But yeah, so him kind of reverting back to Norm and cleaning up the mess, cleaning up his mom's mess, and just that whole deal of him, wrapping her up in a shower curtain and dishing her body along with the car in the fucking creek. Little subtle hint at that creek scene where the car's kind of sinking, and then it stops, and you see Norman kind of get this concerned look on his face. And then it starts sinking again, and it fully submerges, and then he gets this slightest little smile. Thought that was a very, very good hint that, okay, he claims to not really enjoy doing this, but you can tell there's some little sense of something. You're not sure of what, but you can tell there's a little more to his role in things than what you would believe. And obviously, that's for people who don't know the fucking twist, but whatever. And it's such a shame that, that whole twist of him being the mother is pretty much spoiled to all hell. Like, everybody fucking knows it. If you ever had the chance to show somebody this movie and for some reason they don't know, which I'm not saying isn't possible, but it's just usually when I'm talking about this movie, it's people who live and breathe this shit, so everyone just knows it. But yeah, if you ever had the chance to share this with somebody who doesn't know that twist, fucking do it. I'm still waiting for that because I'm really curious to see. There are certain twists that everybody knows, but in the rare case, whether it's this or the, no, I am your father from Star Wars or whatever, if you have that chance, do it. It's always a magical thing to see someone's reaction to shit like that. Moving on. So we get Lila, Marion's sister, the actual final girl of the movie, introduced pretty much halfway through. And she goes out of her way to find out what happened to her sister. She gets with Sam, who is the man that Marion was having a somewhat kind of affair with, even though he's fucking pretty much divorced by this point, but whatever, different time. And yeah, man, they go on the hunt to see what's going on. I love the scene with the private investigator going to the Bates Motel and just asking Norm questions. And much like Marion, Norm is not used to this sort of thing. In his mind, he's not, Norm is not a killer. Norm has no interest in killing people or hurting people or anything. It's his mother that's the killer. So when this guy's talking to Norm, he's not very good at covering his tracks, and he's not very good at, lying, basically, much like Marion. And I really enjoyed that because it really does sell you on the whole split personality thing later on. It's like Norm's just trying to take care of his mom. Like, he has no fucking interest in killing, hurting people, anything like that. And yeah, man, I really love that scene. Very tense with the private investigator. And then obviously he does ask to talk to his mom, even though, he's saying, oh, she's an invalid. She can't, he said, I'm pretty sure he says that she can't speak. He might say that. I doubt it. I'm not sure. But yeah, he basically insists, like, no, I think it's time for you to leave. Like, no. But the private investigator does, go ahead and tries to do it anyways. And he gets iced, man. Again, no kill of the film for this video, by the way, just because there's 2 kills. And I do love this one, but obviously my kill of the film is the shower scene. I mean, how the fuck could it not be? But big shout out to this kill. The private investigator does eventually somewhat kind of break into the Bates residence, and he slowly climbs up those stairs, and just that overhead shot of Norm in full mom outfit busting out of that door. Scary shit, man. It's very... I'm not going to say it's reminiscent of this scene because this movie came out way before, but it reminds me a lot of The Exorcist 3, that whole scare of it's just kind of very subtle, just a nurse walking through the hallway, and then boom, like it's just this force that's just coming out of nowhere. Just awesome, awesome stuff, man. And it's the same story here, just very calm. And then Norman just rips right out of that door and rips right through this guy's fucking face, takes that knife, and I guess he just did that and kind of slashed across his face. Again, pretty bloody for the time, man. You don't get shit like that a whole lot back then. And yeah, man, just gets that swipe right across the face. The dude takes a somewhat comedic tumble down the stairs, and then Norm just comes down and finishes him off, dude. Crazy stuff. Good kill. But then, they haven't heard from the investigator because he's dead. And they eventually do... Lila and Sam do eventually go out of their way themselves to go to the Bates Motel. And the plan basically is for Lila to, for Sam to distract Norm while she goes in and talks to the mom. And she does. Norm kind of catches on. He's like, where's that girl you were with? And Sam kind of gives it away of like, oh, we got you, motherfucker. Your mom's going to spill the beans. She's going to tell us everything. And because they think Norm's the killer, which he is, but not in the way they think. But yeah, she goes down to the cellar where Norm took his mom's corpse. And she kind of, she comes up to the mom, she turns her around, and scary fucking stuff, man. Just this hollowed out, long dead corpse of this woman. And she just screams her fucking lungs out. Scary ass shit. And then and she doesn't even get a break. Like, as soon as she sees this, what I'm assuming is probably one of the first dead bodies she's ever seen at this capacity, at least. And there's no time to absorb that, which I love that they went boom, boom with the scares. You get that extremely scary dead woman face, and then as soon as she turns around, bam, there's Norman, full mom outfit, got the knife, ready, is just coming right at her. And for the audience, this had to be like, oh my fucking God. Like, I would kill to just sit down and not know. Just not know what's going to happen. I would love to have that shock, that natural shock. But obviously, for me, it's just kind of like, it is what it is. But it's still a great scene. Just that whole, boom, boom. There's no time to breathe between dead mom, Norman mom. Good stuff. But he does try to kill her. Sam does stop him. And then we get the whole scene that's a little drug out at the end there when, the psychiatrist is basically explaining that essentially Norman has a split personality. His mom and him were very, very close, mostly due to her sheltering the shit out of him. And then when she ended up getting a boyfriend, it was too much for him to take, so he killed them both. And to fill that void for him, basically, he started dressing up like his mom and started, kind of filling that void in his life that he very much needed. But he snapped, so he couldn't really have the real thing. So he just stole her corpse, started having conversations with himself that you hear in the movie. It's just awesome, man. Just a crazy good twist. That eerie ass shot of him at the end, man. It's the whole movie. It's just classic, man. Again, that shot at the very end, that's an iconic frame of just him just looking up and then just smiling. Crazy stuff. And they say, they claim that, Norm is gone and the mother has taken over. And then we get into Psycho 2 and stuff like that. And I really like where that kind of takes the story. Not fully. There are some things I'm not too fond of with it. But overall, I think it's cool. And yeah, man, that'll do it. We'll talk about Psycho 2 another day. But for right now, that'll do it for Psycho, man. Just a fucking iconic movie. Like, if you haven't seen it for whatever reason, even if you know all the twists and turns and all that, and you've seen the shower scene, if you haven't just sat down and watched this movie from beginning to end, I couldn't recommend it enough. Just absolutely awesome stuff. And that'll do it for my review today, guys. Next time on Days of Darkness, we are going to be talking about Leatherface. This is the prequel to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre and is in the canon timeline of Texas Chainsaw 3D. So yeah, we're going to see what I think. I have not heard very good things. But I'm a guy who likes to sit down and form my own opinions. Obviously, there are some opinions out there that I do hold in pretty high regard, but at the end of the day, I want to sit down, I want to see what I think about it, and then I'm going to tell you guys. So without further ado, man, I'm looking forward to that, and thank you guys as always for stopping by, supporting the channel, supporting this dream of mine. And yeah, man, without further ado, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep watching horror. All right, guys, have a good day.